City beat Chelsea.
Good evening, welcome back to Matchday Live. We know now the games are coming thick and fast.
Sorry.
You just felt that today was a day that City had to just come here, find a way to win.
All I can tell you is that they're mustard. That's all I can say. I'm not telling you why. I can't run you through that. But I think they're top class.
This is all about the FA Cup, an historic knockout competition with a history of wonderful moments. That has to go down as one of the great FA Cup ties in the history of the competition. This is Touré. Manchester City take the lead. Their semi-final hero gives them the lead on final day. Solomon back to Young. It's there.
It's history in so many ways here for Manchester City.
Manchester City at home to Chelsea.
Every competition is important for us to face Chelsea at home with our fans after a victory. That's much better.
Even he can't quite believe how good the team he built has become.
A very good afternoon, beautiful people. Happy Sunday and happy Matchday Live day as we welcome Chelsea to the Etihad Stadium for our FA Cup third round tie. We meet Graham Potter's side once again, of course, after that 1-0 win on Thursday night in the Premier League with a goal courtesy of Riyad Mahrez. Of course, we're going to be hoping to do the double over our rivals. And not just in the same week, of course, if we cast our minds back, we also won in the League Cup against Chelsea, knocking them out. 64 teams have begun in the third round ties with lots of upsets already yesterday. Of course, Newcastle going out to Sheffield Wednesday. Great result for Wrexham. So unlucky there for Bournemouth and Chesterfield as well. So as we know, anything can happen in this competition. We'll also hopefully be giving you who our next opponents will be throughout the show as the draw takes place after 4 o'clock. We'll bring you that news as soon as we have it. My name is Cel Spellman, and as always, what an absolute pleasure it is to be with you for Matchday Live. And alongside me, you'll see what a panel we have next to me in the form of Paul Dickov, of course, from our women's team, Esme Morgan, and Mr. Michael Brown. Very good afternoon. Paul, it's a funny one, isn't it? Playing Chelsea on Thursday and meeting them again. How does that kind of play in the player's mind?
I think with this team and this manager, they take every game as it comes anyway. I think it was a massive result on Thursday night, getting the 3 points. And get into today, we'll go through the team in a second, but it's a strong team that's going to be out there. A few changes, so different personnel, maybe different system from especially what started the other night there. But these players, they just want to go out there and win the game, and it's the FA Cup. It's the third round, the biggest cup competition in the world, and they want to win it. And
we have to be careful as well. I mean, we know Chelsea have been hampered by injuries, Esme, but we know that they'll probably be wanting to get some vindication for losing on Thursday. That's always in a player's mind, isn't it?
Yeah, and to be fair, the young players who came on the other night, I actually thought did really well. Lewis Hall in particular, I think, is a really, really talented player, and they'll be so hungry to take the opportunity that they've got now. The more senior players are out injured and try to prove themselves that they're worthy of an opportunity when those players do return.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Brian, we're going to get your thoughts on our starting 11, but let's take a look at what that looks like. Of course, a few changes from the game on Thursday to be expected. I can tell you there's 6 changes after that 1-0 win at Stamford Bridge. Stefan Ortega comes in for Ederson, and how great is that to see Kyle Walker captains our side at right back. Manuel Akanji comes into the fold alongside Aymeric Laporte at centre-half, and Gomez comes in at left-back. Then we move into our midfield. I think there's a little talking point here because we've got Rodri holding Bernardo Silva, and we think possibly Cole Palmer. We've seen that happen when Foden has played, who we think will be on the left. Riyad Mahrez over on the right. Of course, he was the goal scorer on Thursday night. And our World Cup winner, Julian Alvarez, starts for us this afternoon against Chelsea. As we look to our bench, very strong Ederson there. Calvin Phillips, John Stones, colossal performance from him on Thursday night. Nathan Ake, Cancelo, Gundogan, Haaland, De Bruyne and Rico Lewis. We seemed more or less without Diaz to have our full squad back to full strength. Were there any surprises in that team today that you saw from the changes?
Not really. I mean, we knew there was going to be several changes with the squad that City have. Emerick Laporte coming back was possibly one that I didn't see coming back so soon, but it's a great opportunity, isn't it, for Alvarez? Can somebody get up and support him and be like a Kevin De Bruyne in behind him? So that'd be one area. Could that be a Cole Palmer? Could it be Phil Foden? We're all discussing, thinking is edging towards Cole Palmer being in there, but there was no more than a curveball on Thursday when Pep played against Chelsea and completely changed it with Cancelo going across to the right-hand side. So we try and second-guess Pep Guardiola all the time, but I think it's a different game here coming. I'm actually a bit surprised how strong Chelsea have gone, but it's a great opportunity. I expect City to win the game.
Well, we can get Chelsea... Sorry, Paul.
Chelsea have to go strong today because the manager's under a bit of pressure, which is ridiculous. Seemingly it's not really his players, he's not spent any money, but they've lost not winning 4 games now?
Something like that, yeah, I think so.
For Chelsea, they expect to be winning things, not just winning games, they expect to be winning trophies.
Do you see Alvarez playing that 9, Paul? Do you know, like at the top, or will he have someone with him, or can he drop back?
I think
he'll play right on the shoulder.
I think if Haaland was playing, I've seen him when he's sort of dropped off and played as the 10 before. But I think looking at the team today, it's going to be a front three. I would think with Alvarez right up top himself. Yeah,
and with Alvarez, let's mention him at the second. Obviously, phenomenal World Cup, and we got to see glimpses of what we'd already seen here at the Etihad, but on the world stage. Coming back, Esme, after winning with your national team, I guess it can only then help breed confidence into trying to bring it into your club form.
Yeah, you'd be on such a high, and it really surprised me how people were kind of shocked and were seeing him as a breakout player at the World Cup, because I thought he was brilliant at the start of the season for City, and I think he was only because Haaland had been so unbelievably good that Alvarez almost seemed normal, whereas comparing it to any other new striker that any other team signed, he was stats were amazing.
Him to play more minutes than he did, because in that World Cup you were looking and thinking, is he a support again like he was for City? Have you seen him much on the training ground? Have you managed to get a look or not?
No, we often train at different times, so we wouldn't often cross paths, but any time I've seen him in the matches, I've just been really impressed. He reminds me so much of Aguero, that sort of short stature, uses his body so well, quick off the mark, drives with the ball. He wasn't going to start for Argentina the first couple of games, was he? And then he ended up being one of their star players throughout the tournament. So as you say, I think the confidence he's going to have is going to be sky high, and coming straight back into the team really at the first opportunity, because he's not been in training long, is obviously going to be good for him as well.
I think it was Jolene was saying, I can't remember, I think he was chatting to Zabaleta, and Zabaleta described Julian as a mix between Aguero and Tevez. Those were the two, which aren't
not
too
a bad combo,
not at
is
all.
it? You'll take that.
But I wanted to ask you as well, because obviously Janine Becky won Olympic gold for Canada. Obviously as well the win from the Euros as well. When our contingent of players that had played, in the Euros or Janine Becky, can you see that there's a bit of something about them when they came back to training?
Yeah, you can just see the shoulders are back, always grinning. You hear a lot about it, that's another thing, but you want to, because we're a team, we celebrate each other's wins, and I was so happy for the girls when they won at the Euros. It was such a joy to see, and they really changed the game in a much bigger way than just those matches. So yeah, I was so proud of them, and you can definitely tell that they've achieved something big.
Yeah, absolutely. They brought it home. They really did. Let's get into that talking point we were discussing. Foden Palmer. Now, there's the age-old thing, isn't it? Everyone thinks, let's get Foden down the middle. We know Pep plays him on the left, and when he did that, Palmer's in the middle. Why do you think he does that? What do you think kind of Palmer brings to the middle of midfield, Paul, if he goes that way?
It's hard to say, because Phil can take the ball in tight areas as well, but Cole's really good at getting in spaces between the defensive midfielder and the defenders, and he takes the ball in the half turn. His awareness is very good. So I think, and his vision and his passing as well. So, but look, if it's Phil Foden in there, I think we'll all be delighted as well, because there's a big clamour for him to play in the middle.
I would like to see Phil Foden in there a lot more, just to see how we get. I wouldn't mind seeing him for 10 games and see what sort of skills and the areas would be different where he could attack through the middle. Cole Palmer, I would imagine, would have been in that position, but it's interesting that Pep Guardiola, with similar players, has gone into that wider one first. So is it learning responsibility of the team that they can sort of say, well, if you're not in the middle, it's not as restricted.
Off slightly,
it's not as restricted for going back that way until you learn that role. You're out, you're a little bit more of a an advanced position.
At the same time, look, Bernardo Silva could be playing one of the wide positions.
True.
You know, they're that versatile and flexible in how they play that a lot of these players can play anywhere on the pitch, especially in the attacking third.
But you know, in that press, when Alvarez goes in press, so we see Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne go and join him in that too. I'll be interested to see who goes and joins Alvarez on that front press to set off.
Yeah.
Do you know, as a central midfield player that have not gone into those positions, it's strange. We've seen Phil Foden played like a false nine, haven't we?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Do you know, in a couple of games and high energy. So it's how they manage that.
I'd be looking at maybe a Bernardo Silva possibly because he has the legs as well and he pops up everywhere.
He's incredible.
He's so good. And actually, you know, I think the first couple of games we didn't quite see him, but he's back into the starting 11 now. And what is it that he brings to this team that we miss when he's not in, man?
He's an unselfish type of role. Do you know, that just gets on with his job. You see him going both ways. What I really like it when City are actually chasing the game and he gets into wider positions and actually forces himself to go. You know, normally that patient build-up that we see.
Yeah.
But at Chelsea, again, you know, certain times he just goes through people and he's got this unbelievable level of balance. But it's more control with City. Yeah. But actually, I know it sounds stupid, but I actually love to see him when City are not at the best. He's got to go and produce
those. He takes his by the
skills.
scruff of the neck, doesn't he?
Yeah.
If things aren't quite happening, he's the one player that I think he takes it upon himself to be the leader out there and go and make things happen. With and without the ball.
Well, Pep said that. He said, you know, when we're winning, it's great. He said, but the players that are the most important to a team are the players that when you're losing or your back's against the wall, who steps up and owns the pitch. Bernardo's one of them. I'm wondering, you know, who in the women's team do you think kind of has that attribute? Would you say, Esme?
I'd say Lauren Hemp's definitely someone that we look to provide a spark, sort of get at the ball. She's exactly similar to how you liken Bernardo in terms of getting on the ball, being direct, dribbling past people.
You had a good chance to go like that then. You should have said it was you.
I wouldn't class myself as a game changer, to be fair. I'd like to think I can lift others up. Yeah. I facilitate people like Lauren by providing them with the
You're
ball
a Rico
and then I
Lewis.
say, go on, you go and do it.
Are you the Rico Lewis of the women's team? Is that what you're saying?
I try my best.
And if we look towards the back half of the pitch, obviously Laporte, we know he had a little knock. Akanji came on off the bench. He's basically more or less changed that whole back four bar walks. Paul, what looking at that, how are you feeling about it? And obviously we know Akanji's been great.
Yeah, it's strong. I think Akanji's been sensational since he came in. You know, he looks as if we say it all the time, looks as if he's been here for 3 or 4 years already. And great to see Laporte back as well. You know, I know he's had his little niggles as well, but he's a top centre half, and obviously Gomez getting his chance as well. So it's, look, whatever way you look at it, Kyle's for me is the best right back there is in the country.
Agreed.
The experience of Akanji, Laporte in there, and it'd be great to see Sergio Gomez out there. And it's a strong, look, it's ridiculous. You look at the subs bench and you think, wow, look how strong it is, but then you see how strong the team is that's there as well. So. But as I said, look, I love the FA Cup. I know Pep does as well.
Yep.
They want to win every competition that they enter.
It's funny, isn't it, though? Do you know, when you actually say Pep likes that, is there anyone, do you know, he just never lets up, does he?
No.
Doing any competition, you think, oh, well, he'll change the load, but he still look at the bench.
Yes.
You know, normally you'd say, well, Haaland's definitely having the day off, he's not going to come. That's what you see in other squads. They sort of park it, whether that's because it's a Chelsea or whether it's someone else you've seen, whether Wycombe Wanderers or, you know, it makes a really, really strong team all the time.
Does that help then with our squad rotation policy? Because, I mean, you have players that are informed that at certain moments you go, they're in our best 11, but the fact that we don't have a best 11, do you think that's informed because all 4 competitions mean just as much as each other?
I think if you look, and Rodri plays this game, where that tells you Pep's mindset for me.
Yes, okay.
He came off at the end struggling. Calvin Phillips is desperate for a game, yet he still thinks, I'm going to take that decision. That was the perfect opportunity, wasn't it, today, to play Calvin Phillips. But that to me just tells you how much he's thinking about still winning the game. Winning this game. Yeah. I know you can always want to win, but he took a bit of a risk there.
Yeah. I know the Carabao Cup's next week, but it's as if these games in January, Pep uses it as a catalyst for the end of the season. You know, I know we've won 4 out of the last 5 Carabao Cups, but that's then the next benchmark for them to go on for the end of the season, and the FA Cup will be the exact same.
Before we look at the Chelsea team news, I mean, when you just look at, we've met Chelsea a few times now. We've knocked them out the League Cup. We obviously beat them at Stamford Bridge on Thursday. We meet them again today. This is probably the worried City fan in me, Esme. I'm like, at some point, one's got to. Can we carry on, keep on doing it? You know. And I don't know. Will that be in the players' mind as well? That are we going to keep on winning, or is this going to be the one where they have to maybe win one at some point?
I mean, you like to think not. Our old manager Nick Cushing always used to say whenever we had one of these, you play them on Thursday, you play them on Sunday, he would say you can never lose both games. So that's the sort of thing Chelsea would be thinking is we can't let them do us over again. But I just think City is so consistent, they have their style of play, they stick to it and believe in it so much that as long as they execute the plan that Pep's put out for them, they can beat anyone on the day. And I think if the players are at the top of their game and there's going to be people in this team today very keen to put in a good performance, then I'm fairly sure they can come out on top, especially against a slightly weakened Chelsea side. Love
that. I needed to hear that, Esme. Thank you. Well, speaking of that Chelsea side, let me bring you the starting 11 for Chelsea, of course, chosen by Graham Potter. Been so unlucky since he's come in with a lot of injuries. Of course, played on Thursday against us, so a few more changes again from that 11. But it looks like there's Kepa in goal, Humphreys at the back with Chalobah, Koulibaly and Hall. Jorginho captains his side in the middle alongside Kovacic and Conor Gallagher. I thought Kovacic had a great game on Thursday, and it's looking like a forward three of Ziyech. Mount comes back from that little knock that he picked up, and Havertz. And then you can see the Chelsea bench there as well with a couple of their new signings that they have made. And Aubameyang, you might have noticed, is not on that page at all, not even in the squad. So maybe there's a little something going on there behind the scenes at Chelsea. But a few young players in there, Michael, and of course, some experience as well. How do you think Chelsea are going to approach the game today differently to how they did at Stamford Bridge?
Well, it's a big ask for Humphreys, isn't it? Hall's been here before, and he came on and done well. So I think he's going to be so confident. He's pushing to be involved in it. And I think as well, Graham Potter's looked at that back three. Looks like he's going to go with a 4 today. And I thought his in-game changes were really good because Pep caught him out early on with the change that he did, and then he's desperately trying to adapt. He lost Sterling straight away, and that set them back. And then there was another one, and then literally they really had a good spell, Chelsea. And Havertz in the 10 role in between the two midfielders was causing problems. They were getting turned round, and then Pep Guardiola had to change. So one thing we have to give Graham Potter, he's one of the best at changing in-game.
Yes, yeah.
So I think that's why Pep Guardiola respects him so much, that he'll take that decision to do it. Not many can do it, and then the players have to also perform it when you do it.
Absolutely. I agree. I think tactically as well, I think Graham Potter's one of my favourite managers out there, but I remember when we played Swansea, it was the same thing. There was a great tactical battle. I think they went 2-0 up in the first half. When he was at Brighton, there was constant, tactical changes between the two of them. You mentioned it at the start of the show, Paul, and we never want to, speak too much on another manager, but it does feel a bit unfair, the noise around Graham Potter at the moment, given how early he is into his Chelsea career, the injuries and also new signings as well he's trying to bleed in.
Absolutely, and the signings aren't his either. It's really interesting that they took Paul Winstanley from Brighton, who was the director of football there and head of scouting, head of recruitment. One of the first things Graham Potter done when he went to Chelsea was bring him with him. And we all know the fantastic players or finds, if you like, that Brighton had.
Yes.
So he's going to need time. They're not his group of players. He's playing in a completely different way from what Chelsea are used to as well. But I really like him. I've been in a few coaching courses with him over the years, and he's really, really impressive.
Do you think it's unfair with him, Paul? Because there's a great bunch of players. The squad's really, really good at Chelsea. But why is it? It's not always the manager, is it?
No.
Joe, and I say some of them, it's always good when they're winning. But after that, and I feel like it's some of those players, I don't know. It's just not right.
Yes. The players have got to take a look at
it. It's not just him, is it?
I know that, no, not at all, because these are the players, and I know the previous manager won the Champions League, but they're the players that got him the sack as well.
Yes.
After him bringing them in, so I've always said that players have got to stand up and be counted sometimes as well, and not always use the manager as an excuse.
Like Jorginho, everybody couldn't say, it was amazing, wasn't it? And then as soon as it's gone a little bit bad, he's not playing all the games. And this is Jorginho, which was like, he was a defo.
And don't start me in Aubameyang.
No.
Well,
Well,
what did he do the other night, Aubameyang?
And I thought it was genius from Graham Potter. He's under pressure as it is as well.
Yes.
And Aubameyang was strolling about, coming on a sub. He was walking at times.
Yes, yeah.
And then, but there was a big statement on taking him off.
And as well, and then for a former City man, it vindicates Mikel Arteta's decision as well at Arsenal, because you were never privy to what goes on behind the scenes.
Did you see Gallagher when he come on? I mean, literally all he did was just literally set the tone. It's like, when you come on, whenever you're on, you literally know that Dickie's playing, and that's what it is. But he made himself, right out there, a few challenges, put a bit of pressure on. He has to show quality.
Yes, yeah.
He has to show quality, doesn't he, today? But he's going to at least try and set a tone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Set something for his team.
Esme, one player who was meant to start, I think it might have been a knock in the warm-up or the day before. Mount obviously was, I think, a big miss for Chelsea. What do you think he can bring back into this team, because he starts today?
I think from a positional sense, he always seems to find good spaces between the lines to get on the ball. I think potentially might start on the wing today, but I think out of possession he's such an important player as well, because he's intelligent with how he presses. He's aggressive once he gets into contention in duels, and I really, really like him as a player. I think he pops up in good positions around the edge of the box and is always dangerous with his shooting. He gets a lot of goals from sort of around the edge of the D, so that's something we're going to need to be switched on to and nullify.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rodri's got his card today, and you mentioned as well, Mike Brown, off air, really liked Kovacic in the Thursday game. He seems to have come into a really good bit of form. Very, very key player in midfield.
I thought he was comfortable in possession, and what he did straight away, he spotted some of them passes round the corner.
Yes.
Really, really quick into Havertz, but like splits City's two as they were, and that was a different thing that City's normally got. Rodri sat there, but they sorted that out between them and realised where the space was, and he was one made them tick. And actually I was hoping he didn't play, because I think it would have been a little bit easier for City. So it's a talented midfielders, and if they've got the ball. So with that setup, can the youngsters in Humphreys and Hall, can they get on it? Chalobah not played so much as well. So I'd be interested to see how they get started to build into the midfield area. So if City press that out and they're not great, then I think that's straight away where City can run on top.
And you look at their back four, and you look at our forward three, and maybe if a Bernardo as well, or a Palmer pushes up with them, you'd like to think, or you'd be thinking, Paul, our four have got to say, we could maybe get at their younger defence today, do you think?
Absolutely, and Chalobah's not had a lot of game time. Koulibaly's been struggling since he came in. So, if you're looking at that Chelsea back four, and what you usually associate Chelsea with, it's actually quite weak. I don't want to tempt fate too much, because they'll probably all have a stormer now. But I think Brownie's right. Young Humphreys, it's going to be a big ask for him, whether it's Foden he's up against or whether it's Palmer, could be Bernardo Silva. But yeah, Hall the other night was fantastic. But
it's a midfield and up front, then I think they look good, don't they? They should be comfortable, but if we can press it earlier.
I look at that back four and it doesn't, and I look at our front four and I think that there's a real chance to get at them here.
When you were saying before, when you've had games in your season where you played them on a Thursday and then on a Sunday, do you think City will go, right, well, we worked at Stamford Bridge, we do the same, or because it's still so fresh, does the manager, you think, lean into making some changes just to mix it up to keep them guessing?
I think, well, obviously it looks as if it's going to be different to how we started the last game, but I think it's going to be similar to how we ended it in terms of the formation, having wingers wide and sort of trying to drive in from those areas. But I think you kind of just look at what went well. We were far more successful in the second half when we did revert to our original system, and I think you'd sort of look to that and think, do you know what? On our day, we're as good as anyone. We will rip teams apart if we play as well as we can do, and Pep will trust that the players are going to put out what he sets them to do.
Do you know when they've played on a Thursday and then again, can you overthink it? Can you look too far into however many things? And I know it passes all the way down through this football club. How does the detail given to you? So what type of detail will you be given there, in-house to go and come up against Chelsea?
I think the most important things would be your 1v1 battles. It'd sort of be going through clips with individuals saying, you came up against this player the other night, these are the challenges you pose them, this is how you might get the better of them next time, and kind of having those 10-15 minute conversations with the analyst or the coach to kind of say, you're going to be in this duel again, this is how you can make the best of it.
I think for me, in possession, Pep's unbelievable. Nobody can do it, but I don't think he still gets the credit out of possession for this team on how he sets up. So do you as well say, okay, well, we'll will we let Humphreys have the ball today? Let's test him out. Let's see how he rolls out and set the trap a little bit later.
Yeah, I think in possession it stays pretty consistent in most games, whereas out of possession is what you would adjust a little bit more depending on what the opposition give you. And I definitely think this is going to be one of those games where you look at that back four and you think, if in the first 5 minutes we can get a little bit of pressure on, get a bit of momentum, maybe put a bit of doubt in the young players' minds about whether they're kind of ready to be playing out against these world-class players, and maybe put them on a little bit of edge. I think that's definitely something they'll have looked into planning ahead of this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think when you've got Julian Alvarez in the team, you've got to press in the front.
Yes.
He's one of the best.
So
we're
tenacious.
Talking about Bernardo Silva, but you watched him the games that he's played here, and then you watch him the World Cup. You know, Messi is unbelievable, but he was doing the running for two men.
Yeah.
To go and allow Messi to go and do his stuff. So I think if he's playing up top, you've got to look to press him in the front because he's one of the best we've got.
Absolutely, and I think as well, can't forget as well, even with the little game time he had, obviously we all want to see him more as City fans, but he still had some major goal contributions and scored a lot given his little time, so hopefully he'll pick up where he left off before the World Cup. Now, while on the subject of Chelsea, there was some incredibly sad news coming out of Chelsea's club this week with the sad passing of Gianluca Vialli. Now, before I read you through what is an incredible career this man has had, Paul, you've got an amazing story about this absolute legend, and I believe as well one of your inspirations and favourite player growing up.
Yeah, I loved him, and I was a young kid. I was at Arsenal. We used to play a pre-season tournament called the Nikita Tournament, and Sampdoria came over. It was 1991.
Right.
And the front two was actually Mancini and Vialli at the time. They played, I think they beat West Ham 6-1 in the Saturday, and they were playing Arsenal on the Sunday, and I was sitting just behind the bench. And the first thing that struck me about it was the first time I'd seen a footballer as a superstar, because he just had this aura about him, and he just sat there. He had a little string vest on, shorts, and he didn't even socks on, just his boots. And he came on the second half. He didn't even warm up. He just picked his shirt on, put it on, and he literally walked on the pitch. And his first touch, he scored the most ridiculous scissor kick I've ever seen in my life, and he just walked away as if it was the norm. And after that, I just thought, wow, what a guy. And then a few years later, when I was managing at Oldham, I was at a function in London, and Gianluca was there, and we were just chatting away, and he was asking about management in Oldham, and he asked me what my budget was at Oldham as a manager, and I told him, and he was just like, I won't say it, he went, that's incredible. And he went, and you have here? He said, I was Chelsea manager, and look what happened to me. but just everything, there was some big hitters at the function I was at, but everybody wanted to speak to Gianluca Vialli, and the amount of time he gave for everybody, he was just a special man.
Well, it's funny when these moments do happen, they're incredibly sad, but there are certain players or people that there is just this outpouring of incredible stories and moments from everyone in every walk of life, and he seems to be one of them. His effect on the game, but people in the game, I don't think kind of can be underestimated, really. Paul,
I think somebody summed it up for me perfectly the other day there, and they said he was world class on the pitch, but world class off the pitch as well, and that just summed him up.
Absolutely. Well, beautiful story there from Paul, and as we look through some images throughout his career, I just want to read you through a snapshot of his career. So when he was at Sampdoria, they signed him in 1984, and he scored 85 league goals. He won 3 Italian Cups, Serie A and the European Cup Winners' Cup. Then Juventus bought him for a world record fee of £12.5 million in '92, where he won the Italian Cup, Serie A, the Super Cup again, the Champions League and the UEFA Cup. There he is alongside Roberto Mancini. Then in England, he won the FA Cup, the League Cup, the UEFA Cup Winners' Cup and UEFA Super Cup, and he's only one of 9 footballers to have won the 3 main European club competitions, and the only forward to have done so. Also the only player in European football in history to have both the winners and runners-up medals in all 3 of those main European club competitions, including 2 winners' medals for the UEFA Cup Winners' Cup. An incredible career, an incredible man, and we just want to send all our love, thoughts and condolences to Vialli's family, and of course Chelsea Football Club as well. What a man. So, I've not had a chance to do it because it's been a jam-packed show, but WhatsApp, of course, is how you can get involved with us here in the studio. Have you got any burning questions for our guests? Maybe you just want to pass comment on the team, or maybe make a point that we might have missed. Get it into our WhatsApp and I'll work through them in just a little bit. I get them all through on the iPad, so I'll try and get through as many as we can as we go on. But Esme Morgan, we've got you in the studio, so it would be reminiscent of me not to, of course, speak about the Women's Super League season. Just first things first, there was obviously a lot of changes in the summer. We know that kind of we spoke as well about kind of it's going to take a while to adapt, but you seem to have done it pretty quickly and I've hit an incredible rich vein of form.
Yeah, we had a bit of a rocky start in our first 2 games, but even with the results that we had, the performances were there, and I think it was strange really, because after losing the first 2 league games of the season, you might expect there to be a bit of sort of tension and doubt within the team, but I've never been in a team that was so upbeat and so confident after 2 losses, because I think we just looked around the dressing room and thought the atmosphere that we have in the group, we're going to be able to turn it round. And as you say, since then we've been on a really, really good run of form and picked up a lot of wins and managed to climb the table a lot, so it's looking a lot better going into the second part of the season.
Were you surprised at how quickly the kind of, almost the revamp, the reshape seems to have clicked and gelled, so quickly, and also, to a real kind of positive effect as well?
I think the new girls have been amazing, just completely thrown themselves into getting to know everyone, into the group, into Gaz's style of play, trying to learn it as quickly as they can, and we've just gelled as a group so much. Everyone's so tight-knit and together, and it's just so much fun to be a part of. Everyone looks forward to coming into training every day, and I think you two can probably speak to that as well. When you've got a good atmosphere within the group, everything just seems so much easier and performances start to click a lot quicker than they might do already.
It didn't go on, sorry.
I was just curious to say if she's called him Gaz and not Gaffer. We knew him. What did you think he'd be, a Gaz or a Gaffer? I thought he might have gone
I thought he would have wanted to be called Gaffer.
Yeah, no.
But his head's big enough, isn't it?
But I mean, we've had him on the show. We had him on the show a few weeks ago, and it's always a joy to have him on. But he just seems to be doing so well, and I know you both always speak so highly of him as well.
Yeah, he's a top guy. People sort of asked when he was in the changing room, could you see him being a manager? And possibly not. But he was always a deep thinker about the game, and he was always really interested in how things were working and everything else. So, and people forget, he's been all the way through, he's been with the kids, he's been with the 18s, and now they step up to...
That is the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
How hard he's worked and the hours he's put in to actually understand how to be a coach, how to provide for players, to develop players, not necessarily just to win. He's been part of a development here on his journey. That's very unselfish, and then at some point he was almost coming to say, right, I need to manage now, where it's a little bit more than just a development, but that's given him a much all-round better product of himself, I think, to go and do this
and as
job.
well as being a good coach, he's genuinely a top man.
Brilliant.
He's a good guy. He cares about people and he wants to help people.
And he was under a little bit of pressure, wasn't he? Do you know, actually, there was a few results and he actually just kept calm, kept doing what he wanted, lots of injuries, and then ultimately, I'm really pleased for him.
And I guess as well, Esme, it's that closeness when you talk about the group that probably is why you react so well to adversity, or in those moments where have lost them 2 games in a row. Do you think that also informs why you are able to bounce back so quickly and then to such a good effect?
Yeah, I think when you sort of have a couple of dodgy results, I've been parts of teams before where there's been tensions in the group and kind of split off into cliques, but it wasn't that at all. Everyone kind of just pulled together, and we had this unspoken belief that we'd be able to turn it round. And I think then when you start getting the results that you want and you get a bit of momentum and pick up a bit of a run of wins, I think then you really, really feel it, because everyone's just in such high spirits and there's such an underlying confidence that you can go into any game and win. And we were really frustrated to draw against Man United, because, well, I mean, it's Man United, so you want to beat them extra more than usual, but I think we deserve to win that game, and that's a testament to the performances and the upturn in form that we've had.
Speaking of that, I mean, we can see the goal. I mean, it was a flipping brilliant game, and it was a great attendance as well. We were here as well, and it was, as you say, it was so unlucky, not to get the win, but as an overall performance and the goal scorer as well. I mean, a colossal performance from everyone, but. There was so much positives to take, even though it was a draw. It kind of felt like a win in a way because of the performance.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't at our best in the first half, and that was something that was dealt with at half-time, but the second half we were so threatening throughout, really had them on the back foot, and as you say, so frustrated not to get a second goal and managed to put the game to bed. But it was so much fun being able to play at the Etihad. I mean, for me, I was just walking round completely in awe, having watched so many games here growing up. But it was a great occasion, great atmosphere, especially towards the end when we started knocking on the door and people really started getting into it and trying to almost suck the ball into the net for us, but not today.
I mean, I could probably single out every player within the squad and we can highlight them, but there's a couple here that I've got notes to mention. First of all, we've got Haaland, you've got Bunny Shaw. I mean, the goal scoring record from Bunny this season is phenomenal. phenomenal, and it looks like it's only going to get better and better.
Yeah, she's absolutely on fire. If she's on your team in small-sided games in training, you know you're winning.
Wow, okay,
like,
okay.
I'm like listening, I hear my name, I'm like, please say Bunny, please say Bunny. Yeah, she's on absolute fire. She's been so good, and Gaz always says, Bunny, at your best, you're unplayable, so everyone just goes around calling her unplayable now.
Yeah.
She doesn't like it. She's like, oh, shut up.
Another one as well who's been, I think, key in the squad for a long time, especially with the change as well, Alex Greenwood, and we know massive congratulations to Alex. Was a new contract awarded, which is great news for all City fans. Just how important is Alex to that team, especially when Steph doesn't start as much as Steph once did?
Yeah, Alex just steps in as captain, and she's such an important player in the team. She's got so much experience. She's won a Champions League at Lyon, which is something not many of the other players in our squad have done, and she's such a talented player. Her ability on the ball is incredible, and she's someone I learn a lot from in terms of my abilities at centre-back, playing out of the back. And yeah, I just think she's such an important player. Left-footed centre-back is something that both Pep and Gaz really, really value in terms of the build-up play. So she's so key for us, and I'm so pleased for her that she's signed a new deal.
No, Esme as well, you are very modest. I know you don't like talking about yourself, but two things. First of all, when Alex hasn't captained the side, you have been Manchester City's women's team club captain twice this season. I mean, if I can say, I was bloody proud. But I mean, for yourself to be a City fan and then to have that moment, just what was that like to captain the side, Esme?
It was really special. It was special for my family as well. After the game, my mum and dad were at the match down in Reading, and they both sort of came up to me and were like, your nana would be so proud. And I was like, oh God, you're going to have me in tears in a minute. But I mean, it doesn't change how I behave, really. I'm often one of the more vocal players on the pitch. And Steph always does the inspiring speech before the game, whether she's playing or not. So it actually was just really another accessory for me to wear. But it was something that made me very proud, and I felt privileged that he entrusted me with the responsibility of that role. And yeah, I felt well supported by the rest of the group in it too.
Brilliant. Well, it's a credit to you, and especially with that injury as well, I think it's thoroughly deserved, and a testament to yourself as main. And just quick mention on the captaincies, Kyle Walker captains the side as well. How will he be feeling? I mean, I think rightly so as well, but what a moment for him.
He'll be delighted. Obviously wants to play more football, like every player. Obviously, being out for a long period of time, managed to get fit for the World Cup, which how he did that,
it's ridiculous,
I'm not so sure, because it was half the time of the surgery that they recommended.
Really?
Yeah, so the surgery did really well for him. He was in the next day and he battled every single day. So he's come back, he's still obviously finding his feet. A lot of adrenaline gets you through a World Cup, and then obviously just going to take him a couple of weeks to get going. He'll be disappointed that he couldn't do a little bit better at Chelsea. Pep Guardiola made those changes for different reasons, but he'll be delighted to get that captain's armband and get more minutes, getting back to his self.
Absolutely.
It leads by example anyway, doesn't it? Whether he's got the armband or not.
Yeah, you can, and I guess as well. I mean, we know City have the captains and the team of five as well. I think Kyle might be in that, but I mean, he's been with us for so long as well. That experience is so key, isn't it, Paul?
It is. He's super experienced, and I think it's his mentality more than anything else. I mean, how he made the World Cup. I mean, we've seen him the week after his operation, and I think they'd said it was like 12 to 14 weeks, and this was 6 weeks before the World Cup started.
Gee whiz.
So the drive and the hunger that he's got.
The medical team as well helped him so much, and actually to get through that. But you need minutes, you need games to come back.
Yes.
To get, when you've had surgery and you've missed those key moments, you're just going to need a couple of weeks. But coming into Manchester derby, going into Champions League time, we're going to need obviously as many of these type of experienced players who are not fazed by it to go on and obviously progress in the Champions League.
Absolutely. Final word on the women's season. We've had the draw as well for the FA Cup. Sheffield United is the opponent, and then I think you've got West Ham on Sunday the 15th of Jan, Continental Cup. You've then got Leicester and then Villa at home in the WSL. So how have preparations been going to get back underway, Esme, and what are you hoping to do?
I mean, it's been really good since we came back in. Everyone was sort of energetic, ready to go. We had to do the old fitness testing, so that wasn't too much fun. But with last couple of sessions, we've kind of begun begun proper football stuff, small-sided games, possession, little technical drills, and getting back on the ball and getting a bit of the Christmas cobwebs out of our legs.
Haven't we all? I mean, no, I haven't yet.
I've still got it.
No, I'm still going, to be honest with you. Well, listen, of course, we'll be following you every step of the way. And, of course, don't miss that Sunday, the 15th of Jan. West Ham, our women's team, are back in action. Right, let me recap our starting 11. If you've just tuned into us on Matchday Live, thank you for joining us as always. We've got 25 minutes until we kick off in our third round tie against Chelsea in the FA Cup. Our starting 11 looks like this. Stefan Ortega in net. A back four of Kyle Walker, who captains the side. Manuel Akanji partners Aymeric Laporte. And Gomez there at left back. Rodri holds alongside Bernardo Silva. And we've decided here in the studio, Cole Palmer. And a forward three of Phil Foden, Riyad Mahrez, and our World Cup winner, Julian Alvarez, our starting 11. Want to take a quick moment now to just look back at some other parts of Manchester City's football club. And one area that we know we've been excelling in for the last 5 years now, if not decade, is of course our academy. And it was an unbelievable win for our EDS team and Brian Barry Murphy yesterday. They were facing top of the league, of the Premier League 2, Arsenal, who were unbeaten, and they went out and won 6-0, which well and truly put Arsenal in their place. We're going to look at some of the goals now. We had three braces. We had Borges, we had Alex Robertson, and then we had Matebe as well. We're going to look through the goals here, Michael, but it's 2 years in a row now that we've won the Premier League 2, the under-18s. The under-18s also went top of the league as well yesterday, so this could be both leagues 3 years in a row. How special is it what City are doing here in the academy?
It is so special, and when we discussed the academy with Brian Barry Murphy the other week regarding he doesn't know what squad he's going to have until he's even setting off. This is the problem all the time with different games. Which players you're going to have available? Is the first team going to take a couple? Is some going to go out on loan? And to be still fighting right at the top. And this was obviously a game against a strong Arsenal side that you're thinking, this is going to be tough to go and convincingly win like they did. I think that tells you everything. And the process right throughout the build in the academy. I mean, look how they play out, Paul. It's just amazing.
I mean,
it's not watching the first team.
I was just about to say that.
And that's exactly why they can sort of drop players in, pull players up from the under-18s, under-16s into whichever squad. Players come down from the first team because, as we alluded to, the detail that they receive in the training sessions is such that everyone knows what every single role on the pitch requires. And so they can slot in wherever, and it's just part of the system. You just like cogs in a wheel, really. So it's not even necessarily having to have those relationships with other players on the pitch. It's second nature because that's how they play right the way through the age group.
Yes, yeah.
The development's there, but obviously, again, the development's got to be for them to either get in this first team or to have the tools to go on loan somewhere else.
Yes.
To then push and further the career. That's always the difficulty, isn't it? Is how long do you stay? Is this going to be the right type of games and format?
I think for these kids now, and especially the ones that are playing here, they can now look to the first team and think that we're going to get a chance here.
Yes.
Rico Lewis, Cole Palmer, obviously Phil Foden there as well.
Yeah.
Wilson Esbrand. They can actually see a pathway through now, whereas I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago people were thinking that the gap's too big to go for the EDS straight into the first team.
We've seen that in Girona game, didn't we?
Yeah.
For the players that came in, and it gives them that hunger now to think, do you know what, if we keep doing, we keep learning, we keep listening to what's happening, there is a route for them into the first team. And
there's the route into the first team, and there was a great story, if you missed the show with Brian Barry Murphy on, with Rico Lewis. He said it wasn't even on anyone's radar he was meant to be in the first team. He joined for one training session before they went on the American pre-season, and it was Pep that went, I want to see what he's like on the pre-season, just from that one training session. So I guess as well it can be you work hard, but Esme, it can happen in one training session if you show enough, and Pep goes, there's something in that.
Exactly. I think it's just taking your opportunity when it's there, and obviously Rico did. As you say, one training session, someone with a football mind like Pep will just be looking for certain characteristics. It might even be body language, which is something he's spoken a lot about recently, and he's like, that's a player for me, give them a chance. And obviously Rico's done well to develop and improve himself at that level, and I think he's been brilliant.
Yes.
It's really cool actually, because in the academy they have a lot of artwork and pictures and murals, and in the reception, as you look to the left, there's a picture of Rico holding one of the Premier League trophies from about 4 years ago when he was one of the younger players in the academy. So if you look at that and then see where he is now, it's just really cool.
Well, while we're on Rico, by the way, the FA Cup draw is going on, and we'll bring you news the minute that we have that, who we get drawn against. But I've got a section here to talk about Rico Lewis. I mean, there's nothing we can't say that I don't think has already been said, but I wanted to pick up on something Pep said at the end of the game, saying basically he attributed it, Rico Lewis, to changing the game against Chelsea, and he said that he makes players around him better. Can you explain that in a little bit more detail for what that does mean, and what have you seen him do that has given him such high praise from arguably one of the best minds in football?
I think first and foremost he's infectious, you know, in his attitude, how he works off the ball, how he presses, and he must be a joy to play. Well, obviously a joy to play with, because he always wants the ball as well. You know, that was the thing. The Liverpool game here a couple of weeks ago. You know, it's a huge game for him, obviously being Liverpool, and he's taking the ball. He's a full-back taking the ball in the middle of the park, in midfield. He's wanting the ball all the time, and he wants to go and get it. And sometimes if things aren't going quite right, I think what Pep meant by that, I'm not saying players hide, but if the formation's not working or you're not playing well, sometimes it's really difficult to go and grab the game by the scruff of the neck and get on the ball. And he done that, but within 2 or 3 minutes, the whole tempo in the set from the first half to the second half changed, because he wanted to go and get on the ball.
And one thing we know that Pep plays with is the inverted fullback. He brings him into centre midfield. Now, Brownie, that's your area of the pitch. How difficult is it to do what he's doing? And second of all, have you seen anyone at such a young age, bearing in mind he's only just turned 18, he made his Champions League debut at 17, for him to do it so quickly in arguably one of the most complicated footballing systems in the world?
Well, I think that's got to be full credit to the education, as Esme said, all the way through, learning that sort of detail that's given to you, analysis showing how to play, where to stand, and because he had a few years of it, he's been able to see and have a look at that, but to take it on board and then to actually to do it is a totally different thing. And that's what Pep Guardiola has said. He said the intelligence of this young player is incredible for what he's doing already. So it's okay, he's going in and dropping into the midfield area and say, right, I'm available now to get on the ball. But it's when do you do that? So when you come up against Chelsea and the wide player stays out, can I still go in now? Is that the right time? Is it not? When do I drop back across? At what? And that's only as well Pep Guardiola giving him that information and to be able to do it. And again, you'd hope some of the senior players are helping him as well, saying that's your time to drop in now, get yourself back across. And I think Cancelo has done it as well, so well from the other side. Kyle Walker's been doing it for several years. I mean, we've seen Delph do it originally, didn't we, when it first sort of started. So I think as well is they're helping him as well, the squad, you know, the centre-backs, John Stones is communicating. But to take that on so early in his career,
absolutely.
I mean, that just tells you temperament must be perfect.
And the other thing I love, and do you think you can see in this game? I know his dad has a mixed martial arts gym, which he's grown up in. Oh, hang on, I can now. It's coming live. Manchester City or Chelsea. We're going to say City because we're going to win. Are at home to Arsenal or Oxford. They are our opponents. Come on, Oxford. Come on. Wow, though.
What a game, man.
You want Arsenal?
Yeah.
Woo. Wow.
Send out a message.
We're happy. We want to go with Arsenal, do you reckon, Esme, and put out a message then? If we win here, of course, we don't want to jinx it. But.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But yeah, I think there's a lot of talk about how well Arsenal are doing in the league, and I think they just need to have that boat shaken a little bit, maybe not that confidence, and if we could do that in the FA Cup, it might sort of send us on a bit of a run into the end of the season.
I'll go against that then. I'll go, come on, Oxford. So I'll really a much bigger dent in them.
Yeah, very true.
Well, you're right at the top. So.
I guess we know. I think the Arsenal game at the Emirates is going to be in February. I'm going to be there at that one. Cannot wait for that. I can't remember when this tie will be played, but I guess that is an element, like you say, put a seed of doubt in their mind and actually just assert yourself and go, listen.
The 28th, I think.
Okay.
So it's a brilliant game, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you look at the tie for the FA Cup now, then thinking, right, well, Chelsea, Arsenal, City, Arsenal. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's fantastic. Some big teams going to go out early, aren't they?
There's this thing as well, Paul. I mean, it's been said, particularly in the League Cup, a couple of times, you know, that City maybe have been fortunate on draws. I mean, I can cast us back to early as Champions League days and say we're not always lucky with draws. But we look at this season so far, Liverpool, Chelsea again, potentially Arsenal in the FA Cup. It's that thing of if we want to win all the trophies, you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. But if we do it against the calibre of opposition we're coming up against, you'd be hard find a stronger, more better season that we've had, beating the calibre of opposition.
Yeah, you would look at that if we get through today. And
of course.
You would expect Arsenal to beat Oxford, but you never know. It's the FA Cup, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's always shocks. I think coming in today, and the radio was saying that there's going to be guaranteed 8 Premier League teams to go out this round.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Because the way the draws worked, and then obviously that's another. It's going to be a big game in fourth.
I tell you what's just happened. Those Arsenal players, club, supporters, fans, dreaming of Wembley.
Yeah, gutted.
They've just seen that draw and they've just gone, oh no.
Yes. Oh no.
So that's on the other side. We're looking, going, right, how's it going to be for City? Who's going to come next? Nobody wants City.
Yeah.
Straight away, they have just... Literally, they've gone like this.
On the flip side, the Oxford players will be absolutely buzzing.
Yes, yeah.
They've got a massive game against Arsenal.
Yeah.
A one-off.
Can that give them a bit more?
I think so, yeah.
Do you know what? Actually, the round in the States, this is like...
What we can do it.
Well, did we not have Oxford a couple of seasons ago?
Foden got his
when it was at the end of the game though, like we weren't winning by any means, and it was kind of towards the end, wasn't it? Yeah, good Foden goal. Also as well, speaking of Premier League opposition going out, United have drawn Reading. They beat Leeds earlier today as well. So that means they Cardiff, sorry. Yeah. But Reading have been drawn against Manchester United as well, so that's an interesting tie. Final question. It came in on WhatsApp. We were speaking about Rico Lewis before. Great question from Justin on WhatsApp. Do you think that Rico Lewis will get called up for England's next major tournament if he carries on the way he's playing?
I think if he carries on the way he's playing, yeah. He's playing in one of the best, if not the best team in the country, in the league.
Do you know what you'd say though? The only thing is possibly one of the worst positions he could actually come in, isn't it?
We've already got 17
there is some gaps. I mean, it is crazy, isn't it? I mean, Gareth Southgate, really? Another right back, Pep. He's ringing Pep saying, can you produce someone else?
Someone on the left-hand side at least.
Give me something else.
No, honestly, if he's playing, he's more often than not.
He's going to play for England.
100%.
Yes. Let's be fair.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of time.
Thanks for that question, Justin. All right, now commentary, of course, is on the Manchester City app with Alistair Mann, who was joined by Andy Morrison this afternoon, so make sure you tune into that while watching the game and we can get their thoughts pitch side now, and then after that we're going to look back at some of our FA Cup memories before predictions.
Well, a very warm welcome to pitch side ahead of the FA Cup third round tie against Chelsea. Familiar opponents indeed. Alongside me on co-commentary duty today is former City captain Andy Morrison. How important a victory do you see Thursday's win at Stamford Bridge?
Massive. Really important. I felt, when we went 1-0 up, I texted a few people and I said, this is huge if we win this one. For momentum, because we're not really fluent at the minute. We're not moving the ball as quick as we normally do. The patterns aren't the same. And they go through stages in a season, and the result camouflages that over, and then you drift back into form again. And that was a huge game for Vialli against Chelsea on Thursday.
And of course, ironic that they come up here just a few days later. Inevitable that there were changes today. What do you make of those changes that Pep's made?
Well, at the moment, when a team comes out, it's the first thing I look for is Haaland to see if he's playing, because I want to watch him play football. And he wasn't there, and Alvarez is in, and that's exciting for me. Back from the World Cup as a start, the boy should be absolutely flying, and there'll be an energy. It's a different sort of problem for Chelsea than what Haaland offers, and I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing him.
7 changes for City, 6 for Chelsea, so there's no real indication from Thursday to today. Why do you think City haven't been as successful in the FA Cup as they have been in the Carabao Cup and the Premier League?
It's a cup competition. It's a cup competition, same as the Champions League. When you get to them knockout stages, you get one chance, and it can go wrong with a red card, a bad decision, and maybe not your day. And the Carabao Cup has been very kind to us, but the FA Cup is the cup that you want to win. And I like the starting 11, I really do. And it's a Sunday afternoon. There's a lovely vibe, and it's going to be, the pitch is just absolutely meticulous as we're looking at it, different to when I played. And I've got a good feeling about today. And you're looking at the bench as well, what we can change. And the manager made brave decisions in the week at half-time, and I think that's what a lot of people are called out for, is maybe a bit early with the changes. And if you want to bring Haaland and you want to bring De Bruyne on at half-time, we'll be happy to see that.
So do you think that Pep attaches importance to the FA Cup?
He attaches importance to every game, because a defeat, I think, cuts him, and I think it hurts him. And he's incredibly proud. And I read an article where you might not get perfection, but you must strive for it. And those were his words, and perfection is everything to win all 4 trophies. And this is one of them, and we're in every competition at the minute. So while it's still there, go and win the next game of football.
OK, the thoughts there of Andy Morrison. Myself and Andy will be bringing you the commentary, so make sure you download the app. And we'll hand back to the studio right now and get their views.
That's not good, no.
Alistair Mann, thank you very much. Andy Morrison alongside him. He's got your commentary on the Manchester City app. OK, before we get our predictions from guests in the studio, the stadium is filling up. Let's look back at some of our favourite FA Cup memories. I mean, we're going to be. You probably don't want to, because the one that we have to begin with. And I remember my dad waking me up after sending me bed for school the next day. The 4-3 Brownie, but. I mean, not happy memories for you maybe, but for City fans, it was an unbelievable game.
It was some game. I mean, I just knew at half-time, I'm thinking we're 3-0 up, thinking, and 10 men, City, and I'm thinking, surely, I still don't trust it, because I know the history of Man City. It could be up, it could be down, and then now this change. I'm stood in the middle thinking, this is not really happening, is it? But I'm just trying to get tight, not tight enough. right, he's offside. We've had the discussion, we've done the documentary on it. Just put your flag up. But that was a special day for City. I was on the receiving end, but I'm sat here now, so I can say I contributed a little bit.
You did, you definitely are. I mean, as I say, I got sent to bed at half-time, and then my dad came and woke me up and said, you need to come downstairs and see what's happening at 3-2, and then, yeah, what an unbelievable moment. The next one that we want to look at, Paul, we got no footage, but was that big derby win against United at Wembley, 1-0, but that was such a... Well, that cup competition was so key, but gosh, that really kind of sparked the start of this turning of the tide, didn't it?
It did, and it let that lot over the road know that we were really after them as well. You know, fantastic moment, not just for winning it, but fantastic moment for the fans, beating United, winning the FA Cup. It's just special.
Really, really was. And speaking of winning that FA Cup, it's the third moment, which is Yaya bringing us that trophy. I mean, Esme, I was there for it as well.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I was. I just remember it being sheer pandemonium in the stands. Everyone was sort of surging to get down to the front, and incredible scenes, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Special day.
First trophy since 1976, and guess what? The rest is history, and we're still writing it as we speak. Can we get back to Wembley this year? Well, first of all, we're going to have to beat Chelsea here, and then we'll either have to beat Oxford or Arsenal in the next round. Teams are in the tunnel, so before I hand over to Alistair Mann and Andy Morrison, a few minutes just to get some final thoughts and predictions. Brownie, how can you see this game playing out today? Is it going to be different from what we saw on Thursday?
I think it is, obviously at the Etihad with the home support, and I feel it's a really, really strong team. I was asked earlier before the teams were out over in City Square what the score was, so I don't know if I can change. I said Alvarez 3-0 to City.
Alvarez 3-0?
Yeah, so I felt it could be a really strong performance. I think everybody's now getting into the rhythm and looking obviously into next week's game, the Manchester derby. People who want to play in it.
Absolutely. Paul, can you tell me where will one of the key battles be on the pitch today, where the game might be won or lost, and then also give me a prediction?
I think in the wide areas, you know, we expect it to be full. Riyad came on the other night there and got his goal up against the two young fullbacks from Chelsea and really tested them early on.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I love that. And Esme, you mentioned there, of course, we've got the derby. A few players coming into the 11 that will probably be wanting to actually try and maybe assert themselves a bit more into the team. That can only bode well, can't it, for us now as we get into this business part of the season?
Yeah, I think Pep demands the absolute highest standards from all his players, irrespective of who's playing, whether you've been inconsistently or in and out of the team. And there's going to be a lot of players on this pitch tonight with a point to prove. And obviously Alvarez is coming back into the team after his World Cup win. So I think there's a lot of people who are going to be ready to put in a good performance, and I see City with a comfortable 3-1 win.
3-1 win, so 3-0, 3-1, and...
I was going to go 3-0, so I'll go 4.
You're going to go 4. Goals galore here at the Etihad as well.
Come on, quick, Kel, Kel, what's yours?
I'm going to say... I'm going to go with like a solid 2-0. Nice solid performance. There have been low scoring games, haven't they, against Chelsea? Like 3-1-0. So I'm going to say maybe one more 2-0 for me here in the studio. And I'm sure you might have some different ones at home, but let's just all hope that the end in a Manchester City win, as I say, that'll put us through into the fourth round. And we had the draw at 4:05, which meant that we are going to be facing in the next round, if we beat Chelsea, either Oxford or Arsenal. Right. Our boys are there in the tunnel, which means they're going to be making their way to the Etihad pitch. The stadium is almost full. So remember, if it does finish a draw, there's no extra time, there's no penalties, it will go to a replay. But with our predictions in the studio, we're going to be sailing through into the 4th round, fingers crossed. Thank you as always for joining us. Sorry I didn't have a chance to get through any WhatsApp questions. It was jam-packed today. There's so many brilliant things happening with our first team, but with the club in general. But I'll get through a few more half times to come join us, and we'll be back at full time. Alistair Mann and Andy Morrison have got commentary on the Manchester City app. Final thing for me to say is come on City.
Well, the City players are in the